Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something pretty interesting today.
Yeah, this one's pretty fascinating.
We're looking at Argentina and how businesses there can, get this, donate their income tax liability, like all of it,
The whole thing.
and then basically get it all back as a tax credit.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a transferable credit, too.
So they're not just like writing it off, they're actually getting it back to use.
Right. And it's all totally legal. It's built right into how things work down there.
Interesting.
Yeah. And, it's not some shady loophole or anything. It's a whole system designed to encourage businesses to help out with public projects.
Okay, so using the tax system to kind of nudge them in the right direction.
Exactly.
Oh.
We've got this this in-depth guide here that lays it all out, and it's pretty incredible, the implications, I mean.
I can imagine. So they're basically picking where their tax money goes.
Yeah, and then getting it back to use somewhere else.
Hmm.
It's really interesting how they're using this to connect private businesses with public projects, you know?
Right, right. So it's not just about the tax break. It's about getting businesses to, I don't know, maybe take a more active role in their community.
Yeah, exactly, to sort of like help shape things
Yeah.
nationally.
That's pretty cool.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts of how to do it, the actual steps, let's talk about how this is even possible legally. What's the background here?
Okay, well, it's built on kind of I guess, layers of different laws and decrees and court decisions that have built up over time. But the core of it is this thing called Article 81
Article 81.
of Argentina's income tax law.
Okay.
And basically, it lets you take deductions for donations you make to, different levels of government in public institutions. But the real change happened with the 2022 tax reform.
Oh, okay. So that's where the 100% credit thing came in.
Yep. Law No 27.701, part of that reform.
Mhm.
And it basically just made it so much better for businesses because now, you can use the full amount of what you donate as a credit.
Like a dollar for dollar thing?
Yeah, you could offset future taxes or you could even sell the credit to another company.
Wow. So it's not even just a deduction. It's like getting your money back, but then you get to pick where it goes.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's wild.
But of course, there are rules.
Yeah.
It's not a free-for-all.
Right.
Decree No 134498, that one kind of lays out the ground rules for what donations are eligible, the whole tax benefit thing.
Okay.
And then there were these resolutions like 1815-2005 and 2681-2009 from AFIP,
AFIP.
Argentina's tax authority.
Oh, right.
And those get into the nitty-gritty, the reporting, making sure everything's on the up and up.
So they've definitely got a system in place.
Yeah, they've thought this through.
But what about, you mentioned court rulings.
Yeah.
What role have the courts played in all of this?
Well, the courts have been really important for kind of solidifying the rights of donors.
Okay.
There was this one case, Foundation Preserve RC AFIP, back in 2016, and the court, they decided that you could get tax credits for donating to like social projects, but they had to be approved by the state. It really underlines like the whole point of this whole system.
So it can't just be any donation. It has to be something the government has already okayed.
Right, exactly. It's got to be like beneficial for the public good.
Makes sense.
And then there's this other case from 2019, Empresa XC AFIP-S Credito Fiscal.
Okay.
And this one was huge because, usually there's a cap on donations. You can only deduct 5%.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
But this ruling, it got rid of that cap,
Wow.
but only when you're donating directly to the state for specific projects.
So that really opens things up.
Yeah, it did. I mean, now you can make these huge donations.
It's like a whole new level of impact.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about loopholes. It's about encouraging companies to, be socially responsible.
In a very specific way.
In a very specific way, yeah.
So it sounds like all this, the laws, the decrees, the court rulings, it all adds up to a pretty clear picture of how this system is supposed to work.
Yeah, it does.
But, okay, so we've got the legal stuff down. Now, how does a business actually, do this? What are the practical steps involved?
Well, the guide, it lays out like a 5-step process.
5 steps, okay.
And it's pretty straightforward. First step, like we've been talking about, is, understanding all the legal stuff.
Due diligence.
Yeah, due diligence is you got to do it.
Right. No jumping in blind.
Exactly. Then step 2 is all about picking who you want to support, like which recipient and what project.
Okay.
But remember, it's got to be a government-approved project. National, provincial, or municipal level.
So aligning your donation with what's already happening.
Right.
What kind of research would a company need to do at this point?
Well, they need to, really make sure that the project is legit and something they actually want to support. Get all the documents, make sure everything's transparent.
Transparency seems to be a big deal here.
It is, yeah. Super important for the whole thing to work right.
Okay, so you've done your research, picked a project. What happens next?
Well, step 3 is making the actual donation.
Oh.
And it's not just about, sending the money.
Hmm.
You got to be really clear in the transfer what it's for.
Okay.
You got to specify, donation link to project name, something like that. So there's no confusion.
Right, right. And I imagine keeping good records is important at every step.
Oh, absolutely.
So that brings us to step 4 then.
Yeah, which is gathering all the documentation.
Yeah.
And I guess the most important piece here is the official receipt
From
the state entity that got the donation.
Okay. And that receipt, I bet it's pretty detailed.
Oh, yeah, it's got to have everything. Donor info, state entity details, exact amount, the date, and a clear description of the project.
So it's basically your proof that you did it and that it counts for the tax credit.
Exactly. It's your golden ticket.
Makes sense. And then a final step.
Step 5 is where you actually claim the credit. You got to use this software. It's called Donaciones en Dinero y en Especie, provided by AFIP, and you attach all your documents.
So there's a whole system for this. It's not just mentioning it on your tax return.
Yeah, they've really streamlined it.
It's amazing how they've built this whole thing right into their tax code. And it's great they provide clear instructions,
Yeah, it shows they're really serious about making it, easy to use and transparent.
We've covered a lot, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be more to this, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more in this guide. It talks about staying up to date on the laws, using resources from AFIP, and even, getting advice from experts.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more than just the mechanics,
Right, right. It's wild how something that sounds so simple, donate your taxes, get a credit, can be so complex underneath.
Yeah, that's what makes it a good deep dive. There's always more to find.
Oh, I'm definitely hooked. Let's keep digging into this. I want to hear about those resources, and I'm really curious about the strategic planning side of things. How businesses can really make this work for them.
Yeah, we can definitely get into that.
Okay, so we're back and ready to get even deeper into this Argentinian donation system.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff.
Before we went to before you mentioned additional resources and the need to keep up on tax laws. What's the deal with that?
Well, the guide, it really hammers home how important it is to stay informed.
Yeah.
It specifically points to RCA.
RCA.
That's the Argentinian Tax Authority.
Oh, okay.
As the main source for all the latest guidelines on donations and incentives.
So they're the go-to.
Yeah, and they even include links right to their website.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, because tax laws, they're always changing. Always.
So you got to have a reliable source, especially with something this specific.
Right, right. And it's not just general guidelines. They've got these FAQs too, specifically for donations to tax-exempt entities.
Yeah, which is really helpful if you're, if that's what you're looking to support.
Yeah, yeah. So they're really trying to give businesses everything they need to navigate this.
Exactly. But they also make it clear this isn't a do-it-yourself thing.
Mm-hmm.
The guide really recommends getting advice from an expert.
Like a tax lawyer or something.
Yeah, tax lawyer, accountant, someone who really knows the ropes.
Yeah, yeah. With a system it's got so many moving parts. Having a pro in your corner seems like a must.
Yeah, absolutely. They can help you understand all the little details, make sure you're meeting all the requirements, and really maximize the benefits for your business. It's about mitigating risk, making informed decisions.
Right, right. So it's like combining your own research with expert guidance. Exactly. And it shows that this system, while it's got great benefits, it does require you to be proactive.
You can't just sit back and expect it to all fall into place.
No.
Now, beyond the legal and procedural stuff, I'm curious about, the bigger picture. We talked about corporate social responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Does the guide go into that at all? I mean, the benefits beyond just the tax breaks.
It does, yeah. It talks about, the financial wins, of course, the 100% deduction, the transferable credit, not having that 5% cap. But it also highlights, the less tangible benefits.
Okay.
Like contributing to public projects, it can really boost a company's social responsibility profile,
Mhm.
strengthen ties with the community.
So it's like a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. It's about aligning your financial goals with kind of a social purpose. And that can have a ripple effect, maybe boost the company's reputation, their brand image.
It's not just a box to check.
No, not at all.
It's about integrating these donations into the company's, mission and values.
Right, right. And the guide encourages businesses to think long term.
Okay.
It's not about a one-time donation to, just get a tax break. It's about weaving these contributions into their financial plans and thinking about the lasting impact, fiscal and social.
This is what I find so interesting about this. It's not just about gaming the system. It's about this deeper connection between, the private sector and the public good.
Absolutely. And it's a different way of thinking about corporate responsibility, where businesses are actually involved in shaping the future of their communities.
Yeah. Okay, we've been, talking about all the good stuff, but are there any downsides?
That's a great question.
Any challenges that, businesses should be aware of?
Well, the guide kind of hints at it. It stresses that businesses need to, carefully consider everything before jumping in.
Right.
Because while there are huge benefits, there could be, complexities, potential drawbacks, things they got to address.
So it's not a slam dunk.
No, not necessarily.
There's got to be some careful planning involved.
Yeah, and that's where, getting that expert advice we talked about becomes even more important.
Right. So the guide is positive, but it's also encouraging people to think critically.
Exactly. It's about understanding the system, not just blindly following it.
Making informed decisions.
Yeah. It's about using the system strategically and responsibly.
Okay, well, this deep dive has been really eye-opening. We've uncovered a system that's not just, good for business financially, but it can actually drive positive social change.
It's a fascinating case study in how, tax policy can be used to encourage positive action and create a more collaborative approach to solving, public challenges.
Yeah, and I think we've done a pretty good job breaking down this guide and exploring how this whole Argentinian system works.
Yeah, definitely.
But with any complex topic, there are always more questions, more perspectives.
Always. And sometimes the best insights come from, thinking about those unanswered questions, digging a little deeper.
Yeah, I agree. So before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought. This system, it seems almost too good to be true. What downsides, what challenges do you think businesses might face? I mean, really, when they're trying to navigate this process?
That's a great question. It really gets people thinking, maybe sparks some discussion.
Exactly, because that's what the deep dive is all about.
Yeah.
Getting people thinking, sparking their curiosity, empowering them to explore these topics further.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire some of our listeners to, really consider whether this approach aligns with their own business goals.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be.
So to our listeners, we really encourage you to check out the links and resources in the guide. Really dig into this system and see if it's the right fit for you.
And as always, we appreciate you joining us on this deep dive into the world of Argentinian tax-deductible donations.
Until next time, happy donating. Going through all this about this Argentinian donation system, one thing that really stands out to me is how much they emphasize transparency.
Yeah, it's everywhere, isn't
It's
it?
built into every step. We talk about all the documentation, being clear about what the transfers for those receipts with
Right.
all the details.
Right.
It's like they're saying, hey, we want you to do this, but we're going to make sure everything's on the up and up.
Yeah, it's about accountability all the way through.
And I think that actually serves a couple of purposes.
How so?
Well, for businesses, it's like protection.
Oh, I see.
If there's ever, an audit or someone questions the donation, you've got proof.
Yeah, a paper trail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you avoid any legal issues down the line,
Smart.
but it also helps the government, Argentina,
Uh-huh.
because they can track everything, see where the money's going, make sure it's actually being used for those public projects.
Right. Keeps things legit.
It's about trust, really. If people see that the system is transparent, they're more likely to get behind it.
For sure. And that trust, it goes both ways.
Hmm.
Businesses, they're more likely to participate if they know the system's fair.
Makes sense.
It's like everyone's working together to make the country better.
So transparency, it's not just a formality. It's actually essential to making this whole system work.
Totally. It builds confidence, encourages participation from both sides.
It's really interesting how Argentina's managed to find this balance.
Hmm.
Create a system that benefits businesses and the state, but also keeps everything transparent, accountable.
It shows a real commitment to, like, doing things the right way.
Well, I think we've really, truly done a deep dive this time.
Yeah, I think so.
We've looked at the laws, the steps, the pros, the cons, even the role of transparency.
We've covered a lot of ground.
And it's not just about, numbers and profits. It's about businesses taking responsibility.
Yeah, using their resources to make a positive impact.
It's been a really fascinating exploration, and I hope our listeners have gotten a good grasp on this unique system.
Yeah, me too.
And, as always, we encourage everyone to keep digging, keep researching, keep asking those questions.
That's what the deep dive is all about.
Exactly. So until next time, keep those minds curious.